What if I told you that your sadness, your emptiness, that your fatigue isn't weakness at all? What if it's your soul, your unconscious, desperately trying to speak with you? Carl Jung believed that depression is not a sign of failure, but a sacred signal from the depths of your psyche. In today's video, you're about to discover why. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to Espelio Interno, leave a like, share this video, and let me know in the comments how this message resonates with you. Powerful insights are ahead, insights that may forever change the way you understand your pain and your potential. Depression. For most, the word alone brings a heavy silence. It's often misunderstood as a flaw, a weakness, a sign that something inside is broken. But Carl Jung saw through this illusion. He dared to challenge the world's view of suffering. According to Jung, depression is not a disease to be silenced, but a call from the unconscious, a whisper from the forgotten parts of the self, asking to be seen, heard, and integrated. Jung taught that every human being is on a journey of individuation, a path toward becoming whole, and this path is not always lit with joy and clarity. Often it is carved through shadow, through darkness, through the aching silence of depression. When the conscious mind loses meaning, when the life we've built no longer reflects our inner truth, the unconscious begins to rebel. And it does so not with words, but with symptoms. Depression, Jung said, is the cry of the soul when the ego refuses to change. It is not simply sadness, it's not just a chemical imbalance or a reaction to stress, though these may play a role. Jung believed depression arises when we are no longer aligned with our authentic nature. Something deep within has been ignored, repressed, or denied. And now it demands attention. You may be outwardly successful. You may have a job, a family, a schedule filled with responsibilities, but inside, your soul may be starving. You may be living a life scripted by society, by family, by fear, not by the voice of your true self. And that inner voice, that unconscious force, will not be silenced forever. It begins as a whisper, a subtle feeling that something isn't right. But if ignored, it grows louder, until it becomes a weight so heavy it feels impossible to carry. Jung didn't offer quick fixes. He never promised that suffering could be cured like a cold. Instead, he offered something deeper. He called us to face ourselves, not just the parts we like, but the parts we've hidden, buried, and rejected. And here lies one of his most radical insights. Depression may not mean you're broken. It may mean you're being called, a call to slow down, a call to turn inward, a call to listen. Have you ever felt like life lost its color? Like the things that once excited you no longer matter? That is not laziness. That is not failure. That is the soul trying to get your attention. When the outer world fails to reflect our inner truth, a collapse often follows, but in that collapse there is a message, if we're willing to hear it. Jung often spoke of the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we try to deny. He believed that depression often emerges when the shadow grows too large, too loud, too demanding to ignore. And the more we resist it, the deeper we sink. But if we have the courage to confront it, to explore it, to integrate it, that's when transformation begins. Imagine your unconscious as a vast ocean. Most people live only on the surface, navigating by the conscious mind, the thoughts, the ego, the daily concerns. But beneath that surface lies a powerful force filled with ancient wisdom, pain, memories, and potential. Depression is the storm that rises from that deep sea. It can sink the ship, or it can force us to dive deeper, to explore what we've left unseen. This isn't just poetic theory, it's a map of the human soul, and those who dare to follow it often find something unexpected, not more pain, but a deeper purpose. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to uncover how depression often signals a spiritual emergency, a breakdown that may actually be a breakthrough in disguise. And we'll explore how Jung believed every crisis of meaning holds within it the seed of transformation. Let's go deeper. Carl Jung often said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And nowhere is this more evident than in the silent crisis we call depression. What many experience as a breakdown, Jung recognized as the potential for a breakthrough. But to see it this way requires a radical shift in perspective. Depression isn't just about low mood or energy. It's the collapse of a worldview. The structures, beliefs, identities that once held your life together begin to fall apart. And when they do, what's left is a terrifying emptiness, a void, a dark night of the soul. Yet Jung argued that this very darkness is sacred. He believed that when our outer life no longer reflects our inner truth, the psyche begins to dismantle what no longer serves us. This is not punishment. It's purification. The ego resists. Of course, it clings to control, to habit, to safety. But the unconscious has its own agenda, wholeness. That's why, during periods of depression, people often lose interest in everything that once mattered to them. It's as if the old self is dying, and in a way it is. This is what Jung called the process of individuation, the journey toward becoming your truest, most integrated self. But before we rise, we must descend. Before we find light, we must confront the shadows we've buried. In many ancient traditions, suffering was seen as initiation, a sacred passage. Depression in Jungian terms is not an endpoint, it's a threshold, a call to cross into the deeper terrain of the soul. And that terrain is often terrifying, because it forces us to question everything. Who am I really? Why am I here? What does my life mean? These are not small questions. They are spiritual detonators, and depression can bring them to the surface. In a way we can no longer avoid. Many people try to outrun this process. They numb themselves with distractions, addictions, work, or denial. But the unconscious is patient. It waits. And if we don't listen willingly, it will speak through the body, through anxiety, insomnia, illness, and yes, through depression. But here's the paradox. The very thing we fear, that collapse, that stillness, that emptiness, holds the medicine we need. Jung often used the metaphor of alchemy to describe this transformation. Just as base metals are heated and broken, down to extract gold, the psyche must pass through fire to reveal its deeper truth. So when you feel like you're falling apart, Jung would say, "Good. Something false is dying. Let it die." You are not being destroyed, you are being reformed. But to embrace this truth requires trust. Trust in the process, trust in the deeper intelligence of the unconscious, and most of all, trust that your suffering is not meaningless, that it holds the key to a deeper awakening. Jung didn't see the unconscious as a monster hiding beneath the surface. He saw it as a vast reservoir of wisdom, filled with archetypes, symbols, dreams, and instincts. Depression is one way the unconscious knocks on our door, but too often we slam it shut. Instead, Jung calls us to open that door, to enter the inner world with curiosity and courage, because in that world lies everything we've forgotten. Our wounds, yes, but also our gifts. He warned that those who ignore the inner call eventually face a deeper crisis, but those who accept the descent, those who stop running and start listening, often emerge transformed. And this transformation is not just about feeling better. It's about becoming whole. It's about integrating the lost parts of the self and stepping into a life that is no longer based on external expectations, but on internal truth. So if you're in a season of darkness, know this: you are not alone. You are not broken. You are being invited to slow down, to turn inward, to meet yourself on the most honest level possible. In the next part, we'll explore how the symbols in your dreams, the patterns in your pain, and the voice of your intuition can all guide you through the labyrinth of depression and into the possibility of true transformation. What if the darkness isn't the end, but the beginning of everything real? Let's keep going. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious doesn't just express itself through emotions, it speaks in symbols. And when you're in a state of depression, your conscious defenses are weakened. The ego loses its grip. In this vulnerable space, the unconscious begins to whisper, not in plain language, but through images, archetypes, dreams, and patterns that repeat in your waking life. These symbols are not random. They are messages. Think of a recurring dream, a hallway you can't find the end of, a house you've never seen before, but somehow feels like home. An endless fall into darkness. Jung would tell you these aren't just dreams, they are maps of your inner world. And depression often unlocks the door to these deeper layers, because when everything external starts to fall apart, the only way forward is inward. Jung urged people to pay close attention to their dreams during times of emotional crisis. He called dreams the royal road to the unconscious. They carry messages from the parts of ourselves we've forgotten, rejected, or never dared to know, and often these messages are wrapped in pain. Depression isn't just a feeling, it's a signal, a code, and if we learn to interpret it, we begin to see that what looks like despair is often the soul trying to realign itself with truth. Imagine you've spent years living a life that doesn't belong to you. Maybe you chose a career to please others, stayed in a relationship out of fear, built a self-image based on what the world expected, never on who you truly are. Eventually, the tension between your false self and your true self becomes unbearable. That's when the unconscious intervenes. It withdraws your energy. The spark you once had disappears. You can't fake enthusiasm anymore. You can't pretend. This is not laziness. This is psychic revolt. Jung compared this internal rebellion to a dam that can no longer hold back the river. Eventually, the water overflows. Depression is that flood, but it doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to clear the path, to wash away what's no longer real, to push you, sometimes violently, toward a more honest life. And as terrifying as it is, this collapse is sacred. He called this process enantiodromia, a term that describes the reversal of things when they've been taken to an extreme. In simpler terms, if you live too far from your truth, the psyche will eventually swing in the opposite direction. It forces you to face what you've avoided, and in that confrontation, healing can begin, but you must be willing to listen. Most people want to escape depression. Jung invites us to understand it, to dialogue with it, to ask, what is this pain trying to tell me? What have I lost touch with? What part of me have I abandoned? You may find that beneath the sadness is a deep yearning for authenticity, for connection, for purpose. Depression doesn't come to steal your life. It comes to ask, what kind of life are you really living? This is the awakening hidden within the suffering. Jung believed that the path to healing often begins not with medicine or motivation, but with meaning. When we reconnect with a sense of meaning, even in the smallest way, the psyche begins to stir. Life starts to move again, slowly, quietly, from the inside out. But to find meaning, we must stop numbing ourselves. We must sit in the silence. We must notice the synchronicities, the strange, seemingly random moments that feel charged with significance. These, Jung said, are not coincidences. They are glimpses of the self, the archetype of wholeness trying to break through. So if you're caught in a place where nothing makes sense anymore, pay attention. Your dreams, your memories, your deepest fears, they are not obstacles. They are guides. You are being led through a maze, not abandoned in it. And in the final part of this journey, we will explore how to respond to this inner calling, how to move from paralysis to transformation, from fragmentation to wholeness. Because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to forget. Let's finish this together. Carl Jung didn't believe in healing by returning to who you once were. He believed in becoming who you were always meant to be. And for him, depression was never just a clinical condition. It was a profound psychological signal, a summons to transformation, a sacred initiation into the deeper layers of the self. That's why, when people asked him what to do in times of suffering, he didn't offer easy fixes. He didn't try to make the pain disappear. Instead, he urged us to descend consciously, to embrace the descent as a vital part of the journey toward individuation. But how do we do that? First, we must stop waging war against our inner world. Depression thrives in the soil of resistance. When we fight our feelings, suppress our grief, deny our emptiness, we fracture ourselves even further. Jung taught that healing begins the moment we allow the darkness to speak. That means creating space for silence, for solitude, for dreams, for reflection. Not as a way to escape the world, but to reconnect with what is real inside of us. Sometimes this means journaling, writing down what the pain says, what it wants, what it fears. Other times it means entering therapy, not just to cope, but to understand. Depth psychology, dream analysis, shadow work. These are not luxuries. They are essential tools for decoding the messages of the unconscious. Jung emphasized that what we do not make conscious appears in our lives as fate. In other words, if we don't meet our inner world face to face, it will meet us in the outer world through self-sabotage, destructive patterns and cycles of suffering. But when we do turn inward, something miraculous begins to happen. We start to reclaim the parts of ourselves we once disowned. We remember forgotten dreams. We begin to feel, not all at once, but little by little, like we're waking up. This awakening doesn't erase the past, it integrates it. Depression, seen through Jung's lens, is not an interruption to life. It's an invitation to deeper life, a call to step off the stage of who you're supposed to be and finally walk into who you truly are. And this doesn't happen overnight. Transformation is slow, it's sacred, like the growth of a tree underground before it breaks through the soil. There will be moments where you fall back, moments where the darkness feels heavier than hope. But each time you return to yourself, to your breath, your truth, your quiet center, you deepen your roots. You begin to live from the inside out. That is the gift depression offers if we dare to accept it. The opportunity to live not just more happily, but more honestly, more wholly, to drop the mask, to stop performing, and to allow the soul, not the ego, to lead the way. Because Jung believed that the goal of life wasn't happiness, it was meaning. And when your life is aligned with meaning, even the pain becomes sacred, even the sorrow becomes a teacher, even the depression becomes a doorway. So if you're still in that place, if the world feels grey and you feel lost and nothing seems to make sense anymore, hear this. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are being called to stop running, called to remember who you are, called to reclaim your soul. And the path forward is not out there, it's within. Carl Jung once wrote, "Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life." And depression, in its paradox, brings death and birth together. It asks something to die, so something deeper can be born. So don't turn away from the darkness. Listen to it, learn from it, and walk through it, because on the other side of the pain is not just relief, it's revelation. And it might just be the first time you meet your real self. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Someone else might be walking through the same darkness, silently. Share this video, leave a comment, subscribe to Espelho Interno. This is not just a channel, it's a place for those who are ready to stop hiding and start healing. Thank you for walking this path with me. Your journey matters, and it has only just begun.